All right, so hopefully the audio sounds good in this video. I'm running some of the bamboo printers, which happen to be pretty loud. I have to get caught up on some of these 3D prints, and I just can't afford them to be off. So I really can't wait until we move into the new studio and we can have a dedicated room for these printers. It'll make filming continuously a lot easier. But today we want to talk about Autel Robotics. I want to talk about some of the red flags that I'm seeing from them in 2023, which is sort of surprising because they started off the year super strong at CES with the Evo Max 4T and even winning an award for that drone. So with that being said, let's just get right into it. What's good, everybody? Ken here, you're watching OriginaldoBo. Let's talk about Autel Robotics. And I want to first just say that I am not somebody that dislikes Autel. I genuinely do love them, and I have quite a few Autel drones here in the studio. I have an Evo Lite, I have a Nano, I have the Evo V3, the V2, and yes, I still even have an Evo 2 V1 in the studio. So we have quite a few of Autel's products. I don't get a chance to use them as often, just because I still don't like the color science, but they do have a place for the workflow that I have. And I have been a pretty big supporter of Autel in the past. However, recently I'm just noticing mistake after mistake being made, mistakes that they've made in the past that they just keep making with their products, with software updates, and even with some of their personnel that I think could be avoided. So I want to talk about the 3 red flags in this video that Autel is just repeating on itself in 2023. Let's start off with number 1, which is the personnel. So recently announced on Facebook, Ken Booth, the head of the customer support department at Autel, has parted ways with the company, essentially citing differences with upper management and failed promises, we'll just call it failed promises, on the support side. So what does that really mean? And I haven't had a chance to really talk to Ken about this, but knowing some of the things that he was up against, I'll just sort of summarize. When you are in customer support or do anything with software, you are at the mercy of development. You're at the mercy of what senior management wants for the product. And I know there were some promises made, especially when it came to the Evo Lite and the Smart Controller SE, that were not fulfilled. There was also other software promises that were not fulfilled that puts pressure on Ken in a customer support position. These were promises that were made, broken, and you can see what that does for somebody in a position like Ken, where you're on the front line working with customers. Customers that are getting irate because they were promised one thing, but are being told and giving another. That's a problem, right? So what's one to do when you continuously butt up against failed software or ideas that were not delivered upon? You leave the company, you walk away, because it's your sanity, your health that is more important. And unfortunately, if senior management isn't giving you the correct tools or giving you the correct information, that's just not a good thing. And this is something that is continuous as I go through the Facebook groups, scanning and reading comments. This is just something that's been trending even before just this year, is broken promises or failed software updates from Autel. Now, Autel is really good about updating their software. However, certain features or compatibility, they're not so good on. And more recently, I think the biggest drawback was
coming out with a new smart controller for the Nano series.
Excellent question.
Excellent question. So we are getting the accessories lineup. The Lite and the Nano, they share the same chipset, so they will have a smart controller coming out. It is in the works. Stay tuned.
The Smart Controller SE was supposed to receive compatibility with the Evo Lite series, and it never did. After somebody had said that it would, that was in senior management, and going back and forth saying that it would and it doesn't is not a good look. And ultimately, Ken left the company once, came back to the company in hopes that things would be different the second time around. And it was much of the same. So I can understand why he would leave. And it's sad because Autel used to have some of the best customer support. You can call almost any time of day and get somebody to pick up the phone in Bothell. Back when Andrew and the guys were there, I mean, the support was fantastic. And really, honestly, I can truly say after Jeff Powell left Autel, the support just completely plummeted. Maybe it was a placebo, but I always had fantastic support from those guys. And it's really sad to see the state of Autel currently today. All right, let's talk about number 2, which is the Evo Max 4T. Now, this was debuted at CES in January, and honestly, this is not so surprising, but we still don't have shipping times. We really haven't seen this thing flown much. And when you announce a drone at CES, you should be preparing to release that in February at the very least. Most companies that go to CES have products ready to ship February, March. Here we are in the middle of March, and mum's the word, just like it was when the Autel Evo V2 hit. We heard nothing about it. And I think that's a bit of a red flag and an issue. You have this platform that is an enterprise platform, a competitor, if you will, to the Mavic 3T and the M30 in a sense, and you just can't get it in the hands of the people willing to buy it, and that to me is just a problem. So failed product launches and delays have plagued Autel from the very start, back from when the Autel Evo was first announced and that whole debacle. It was almost 6.5 months before that actually made it into consumers' hands. It was insane. Now, granted, their timelines have improved. We're still looking almost 3 to 4 months by the time they launch something to the point it makes it into people's hands, which if they want to survive as a drone manufacturer, they have to do better, and they have to get those products into people's hands in a timely fashion if they want to thrive. And that's something they just haven't been able to do. All right, let's talk about the third red flag and the final red flag. And this one is a huge one. And I think a lot of you will probably agree with this. And this is the nickel and diming approach that Autel has taken and not fixing problems on their first generation products using the same airframe. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Evo 2. They have the Evo 2 version 1, version 2, version 3. And almost sequentially after that had been announced in 2020, we've seen the version 2 back in 2021. And then in 2022, late 2022, we had the announcement that there would be a V3 version. So the problem I have with this is you're screwing over your customers while using the same airframe and not really changing the product all that much. When we talk about this, somebody who buys a Evo 1 or Evo 2 version 1, see, I'm even confused, an Evo 2 version 1 smart controller cannot use that smart controller with the V2 or any other product moving forward. Likewise, right now we're in a situation where people who have purchased the Evo V2 can't use that smart controller with the V3. It just makes no sense. So from a consumer perspective and even on an enterprise perspective, I have a hard time trusting their future compatibility and sort of just the justification of buying a product from them, not knowing the timeline or the lifespan of said product. And I think that's a big problem and something that they need to do better at addressing. Let's also take, for instance, that they announced the Evo 2 version 3, and it's also slightly worse in the color department than the V2 and the V1, as it doesn't even support 10-bit color. And if you don't believe me, take your Evo 2 version 3 out, film an A-log, and open it up in any application, Premiere, Final Cut, DaVinci, and look at the color on that. It is 420 8-bit. There is no 10-bit color processing on that drone, which doesn't really work very well in post-production environments when Autel doesn't really have the best color science to begin with, and they just make it slightly worse by removing some of that added bit depth that we use to correct the colors and sort of bring back the Autel A-log to a much more pleasant looking image, which is just insane that they would even do that and still charge the same amount as a V2 or V1. So that's just one example. And like we talked about, not bringing compatibility to some of their other drones, such as the Nano or even this, the Evo Lite with the Smart Controller SE, I think is an absolute huge miss. That should have been one of the first things they did, was bring backwards compatibility. If they're all on the same chipset, there should be no reason why they do not function in the same capacity. So the only thing that is really backwards compatible or forwards compatible with Autel is their batteries right now for the Evo 2 version 1, 2, and 3. That's the only thing that I can say is really compatible across the board, and that does have a long lifespan as far as shelf life goes. But Autel needs to do a better job communicating, for one. Two, treating their personnel better. They need to treat their staff much better, because you have guys that really care about what the company does moving forward and how it sort of interacts with the drone space, and you're losing them because you can't treat them well. Like, give them the tools they need to take care of the customers and put out the best possible product that you can. Because I still firmly believe in the UAS space, as far as consumer aircrafts go, it is DJI, Autel, and then Skydio, because Skydio cannot compete in all the facets that Autel or DJI can. Autel and DJI have definitely a leg up when it comes to being a multi-purpose aircraft, where Skydio does not. So I really would love to see Autel do much better in 2023. I mean, if you don't want to focus on consumer, just say you don't want to focus on consumer, and that all of your efforts and time is going to be in the enterprise world, because they have a lot of great platforms. They have the Dragonfish platform. They have these new docking stations. But again, what good is all these prototypes if you can't get it in the hands of the people that can talk about how good it is and preach about your product? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Autel's bad. I'm just saying they need to get their shit together, and they need to do a good job in 2023. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully the audio isn't all jacked up. Hopefully this video made sense. And I will see you in the next one. Stay original.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money, the power.